Welcome to my podcast, Transformational Conversations, where I speak to coaches, business owners, and entrepreneurs on how challenging experiences in their life have provided huge transformational growth. This is so that we can all learn from these experiences and grow as a result. Enjoy the conversation.
And today I am here with Louise, and Louise works in the field of leadership development and executive coaching, both nationally and internationally. Louise works with leadership teams on building better self-awareness, team connection, and higher performance. Also working with senior leaders in a one-to-one position in order to help them align personal and professional outcomes. Louise considers herself someone who helps people join their dots between past, present, and future. Welcome to my podcast, Louise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's
a nice introduction.
So how has your day been today?
Very good. I try and balance it between start with self, so a bit of self-care first thing, and then it's a blend. So today's been kind of connecting with others, always about connecting with others, and talking to clients. Actually went out with a walk with somebody, potential client, so which I find actually really good, being out in nature and talking. So yes, a good day. Just would like some sun.
Yeah, we're in the UK, and this time of year starts to get a little bit wet, rainy, and
yeah. I
actually went to the forest at the weekend with my daughter. Took her out for a few hours, and we ended up without any particular purpose, but we were mushroom hunting, and I came across some Amanita muscaria mushrooms.
Okay, they sound scary.
Which we picked, and I will be using those in the future for some sort of medicinal purposes.
Wow!
I'm not sure how to use them yet, so that'll be fun. Yeah, I totally agree with you on the morning routine. I'm a big fan of setting your day up right. Like when you wake up in the morning, making sure you've got a good structure to your day, making sure everything's organised, you know what you're doing, and having a routine is a big part of making sure our mind's aligned for what we are planning to do for the day and what we want to achieve.
Yeah, very much. It's interesting. I know we're British, and we do talk a lot about the weather. Normally, from a very disappointing lens. And one of the things I think's really come out when I'm talking to my clients is this priming. So this starting the day. Because it's so easy to start your day with it's miserable, it's cold, and you start on that loop of spiraling down. Whereas absolutely start the day with something positive, something we're in control of, and have some positive thoughts for others as well, can really kick off your day from a different perspective, through a different lens. And then I always say it's, you attract more of that. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you include some of that with your coaching and when you're working with one-to-one clients or in groups and leadership teams?
Yeah, good question. Definitely with when I'm doing the one-to-one, my work is really around people being aware of their language patterns. So, often we go towards, we go away from. So we tend to talk about what we don't want, all the things, and we notice that we're moving that spiral down. What I want to encourage is people to go, okay, so what do you want? And I do share with them around, how do you set your day up? What is it that you're noticing? What do you say to yourself when you're out to get out of bed in the morning about what's good? I'm a big advocate of gratitude and journaling. Some people like to do it in the morning. I like to do it in the evening. With my groups, would say, again, it's much more the language, helping people catch themselves when they are saying, well, I don't want this and I don't want that. Because if we can start to frame our thinking in what we do want, we are already starting to rewire that pathway that is looking for what we're telling it we want.
Exactly. Self-talk is the biggest part of I think it's the biggest part of self-development.
Yes.
The conversations that we have with ourselves, either consciously or unconsciously, drive everything in our life.
Yes.
I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago where I was explaining the difference between when we, up to the age of, I think, 7 years old,
Yes.
Everything we take on board becomes our patterning, our framework for everything in our life, how the world works, what we believe. And then from that point on, we get a choice. The learning to listen to our unconscious voice, our internal monologue, our internal dialogue, whatever, people refer to it as. Listening to that and starting to unpick it is key to any self-development, any personal change that you want to make in your life. It all starts with the conversations that we have in our mind, internally.
They do. And you're saying that about up to age 7, even, when I'm working, particularly when I'm working at a one-to-one level with, when I'm coaching, often some of the things that are getting in the way are the things that have happened in childhood from those formative years. And yet, I might be working with somebody in their 40s and 50s even, where that's still running the show because it's unconscious. So the more that we can become aware of our thoughts, because I always think of this trigger point, we will have a thought that will trigger us, good or bad. And then based on that, we're going to have a reaction. And then we're going to have a behavior. So we can catch, I call it in that gap, sit in that gap. If we can catch, our thoughts and challenge that, I always think of, well, how do you know? Where's my evidence? Then you can go, what can I do differently? Because we can, we get to choose.
And then for me, that is the process of becoming more mindful of what's going on internally. That is the essential, well, for me, essentially mindfulness is being aware of our unconscious programming behaviors, patterns, beliefs. Everything.
Yeah,
So,
it is. And that space, mindfulness is even just creating that space to see what thoughts do come in. I'm not the first person to say this, we're human beings, not human doings, but we spend most of our time doing and not being. And for me, when I think about meditation or mindfulness or just slowing down, that is all about being more conscious and then choosing what do I.
Exactly. So how did you get into coaching and personal development and that kind of world?
It evolved is, I think, probably the best way to start. I was talking today and I was saying to somebody that probably if I had my childhood onward again, I'd have probably been perhaps a therapist or some form of psychology. And I'd come from kind of a sales background in recruitment, and that was very much about people. So even though it's working with the dynamics of people, and back in 2007, I went to see Tony Robbins, and I know he's Marmite. So some people love him. And yes, I was on the chair clapping as soon as he put the train sound on. However, what happened for me there was I think it's my first exposure to what I now know as NLP, and recognizing that there are these tools and techniques that you can interrupt patterns and interrupt your thoughts and change your emotions or your reaction to them. And he said, you can't choose your family, but you can choose the people you surround yourself with. And I had a very senior career in IT recruitment, working for a big international company. And all I thought was, I do not want to be like any of the senior leaders. I didn't like their values. I didn't like their morals. And I had one of those, I call them my light bulb moments, where it's kind of this sense of knowing that just I get. And I just thought, I want to do what he does. So I am just embarked on going on, enrolling on some courses, and I paid to go and do some life coaching and also some more of the corporate coaching as well. So I had 2 diplomas. I didn't do them straight away. I did have a pause because I got married and had a child, but eventually I bit the bullet and was like, right, that's it. I'm going to go and start this. And I did the first thing, which is sign up to go on the first weekend. And that's where it began. And it was very quick. I mean, one of the things I know about myself is that if I'm going to do something, I need to do it, and I need to do it now. So once I'd started, I signed up for everyone as quickly as I could in between, the relevant gaps, so that I could get my qualifications. And it kind of evolved from there. So that was the coaching journey. How that then evolved was I did actually resign. And from there went to going into kind of doing a little bit of blend of both. So I work within some businesses as a consultant to support them with their recruitment strategy, as well as then building my coaching practice. It was more of a who had I worked with, who could I reconnect with, and over time, it's built and developed to what I'm doing today.
Exactly. And I hear what you're saying about Tony Robbins being a Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. He's very what I would term as American.
Yes.
In the way that he's very enthusiastic about helping people, and sometimes the British can be a little bit more reserved with that.
Just slightly.
But yeah, I think Tony Robbins has become a bit of a household name with what he's done over the years and the amount of people that he, fills arenas with. And a lot of his teachings are so profoundly life-changing for a lot of people. And it sounds like it was for you as well.
Yeah, very much so. And it was in that moment and recognizing, and now I went on and did training in NLP, and I did it twofold. So I went through the same company that I did my coaching training with. And then I had a coach who I then did all of my rest of my training with him. And I'm at kind of trainer level. I tend to use it more with my clients and in groups as well, just again with the language patterns. So I think it's a great way to help people. My saying is I want people to be in the driving seat of their own car. That's where, that's what my role is to help people to put them back in their power, so that they know that it's their choices. Things don't happen to us. And if they do, we get to choose how we respond, and we get to choose what we want to do with that. And that's what I think he brings and he does it in his own unique way. And he's an amazing storyteller. That's what he is, so talented at telling stories and bringing situations to life through that. I'd say he's a master.
And as coaches, for me, exactly what you just said, giving people the ability to choose and letting them know that they do have a choice, rather than just perpetuating the same pattern belief system idea over and over again. Letting them know that there are different options in order to move their life forward in a different direction sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that is the beauty of, the work. What I love about the work that I do, particularly when I'm doing that one-to-one coaching, is those light bulb moments. I mean, you're a coach, you must see that too, where somebody just goes, I never realized that's where that came from. And just giving them a tool or technique to reframe it. And it is life-changing. And I have been told this is life-changing. So, and I think how lucky that we are the conductor of that, and helping people achieve that.
That's it. And I always say to a lot of my clients, it's always really important to make sure that the coach they're working with, people like yourself and myself, who have been to and worked through a lot of their own belief systems, patterns, behaviors, unwound it all and got experience of exactly what they want to experience, so that we can take them through that process with our own personal experience of that as a coach as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It is. It's great to have qualifications, but actually I think the qualification is life. I think for me, the coaching qualifications are how you then help other people tap into what's going on for them. I think of it as it's the magic in really that knowing where to tap. I recognize, I hear a language pattern or I hear something and I know where to tap. And it's in that tapping in that point that really helps people unlock and see things. I always say I hold a mirror up. That's what I'm there to do. Hold a mirror up and also shine a light on their path. So I think we're very lucky to do the work that we do.
It does bring a lot of personal satisfaction for me when I'm working with clients and they have those, like you said, light bulb moments. So what about what you do gives you the most satisfaction? Is it those light bulb moments, or is it more than that, or kind of like, can you?
Yeah, I've got two things that are coming to me as you say that. Definitely the light bulb moments, and invariably those come from that hitting that point of something that's probably been a dark pain for somebody that they hadn't realized, I mean, they realized what the pain was, but they hadn't realized how that actually is coming through now, but just in a different form. So I would say that's the first thing. So individually, yes, when I'm coaching, that fills me with not seeing the pain side of it, but actually moving them through it brings me joy when they go, wow, you know, and it's changed. They've changed how they approach things. In a group setting, what really lights me up is being able to, whatever it is I might be working with a group on, you know, I craft what I'm delivering. So I might be delivering on a particular topic or a particular area. Let's just say it might be communication styles with a leadership team. But equally, something else might come in for me and I might be able to ask them a question that helps them really unlock that. So again, it's being able to draw on a breadth of experience and a depth of experience so that, you know, I'm really adding that value. I found myself the other week, I was doing a group coaching session and I ended up sharing with them how to do some breath work in order to manage their mental state. You know, that wasn't what the program was about, but that's what they needed. And I think having that, being able to be versatile and again, nowhere to tap.
Drawing on your own personal
yeah,
experience in order to enhance their life.
Yeah.
So going into a bit more of your personal journey and your experience and what you bring to coaching, what's the most significant personal journey that you've been on recently that's given you more awareness, that's healed you in some way?
This one, because again, I mean, I was, you know, I think of life as a journey, and there's been many milestones where I've kind of I lifted up the rock and had a look and thought, right, let's see what's under that one. And they always say it's like an onion. There's always another layer. We think that we've got stuff sorted, and then no, let's give you something else to work on. So this year, my big thing that I worked on was I gave up alcohol, and initially it was going to be for 2 months. I decided I was going to have a sober summer, as I called it, because I had always, I've always socialized. I'm quite a sociable person. And that's, you know, and the belief, when I recognized it as a belief, was I have fun when I have alcohol. We're done with my friends. But over the last, and I'm going to say years, probably 3 or 4 years, it's just not quite felt aligned. It's felt out of alignment, probably because the work I have done on myself as well. So I decided that I would see what summer was like. And and I did get my friends saying to me, what are you thinking? You know, summer? And I'm like, well, that's why I need to do it in the summer, because I can give up drinking for December, you know, for January. It's easy. Just don't go out. So what was different though about this is it wasn't about willpower. It was about a complete change in my association. So all of the work that I do with others, my questions to myself were, who am I? What's my identity? If I go out and I don't drink, will I be boring? Will I have as much fun? What will that be like? So I had to kind of embark and I gave myself a month to get my head around it. And I also worked with a coach who actually specializes. She calls herself a sober coach, because what I didn't want to do was, and I'm recognizing but I didn't want to offload on all my friends. What I did want was somebody that I could literally just share my experience, share where I'm at, and I'm effectively paying them to listen and ask me some questions. And that actually was fantastic. So not only have I continued it, so I haven't drunk since the beginning of July. I haven't missed it. I found it easy, which is something I never thought I would say, because alcohol's been in my life since I was 16, and I drank for different reasons through my 16s, my 20s and my 30s, and probably even my 40s to my mid-40s. So that has been transformational. And I would say I work with kind of these 10x mindset. That feels like a 10x shift. And I haven't said I'll never drink again. I've said I'm not drinking this month. And I just do it by month basis. But it doesn't feature in my life anymore, which has become interesting. And I'd like to think I'm still fun and I can dance without alcohol. Who knew?
It does change. I think it changes the person that you like. It completely or it forces you to change your identity
Yeah.
because you've got all of these ideas around who you are when you're out, when you're socializing, when you're even dancing, exactly what you just said. It forces you to reassess the person that you are without it and really discover who is underneath, who is beneath that surface,
Yeah.
who the true Louise really is underneath all of that, and expressing that person without the
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah. And if anything, I think the reason it probably became more prominent for me, because actually I was my true identity. I was already being that. And if anything, alcohol suppressed it.
Mm.
So I don't feel any different as an identity. If anything, I feel more vibrant. I mean, I have a good health regime anyway, so I haven't gained what I would say is a load of health. What I've noticed is just this sense of balance. Every day I feel the same. That doesn't mean emotions don't go up and down, and I have setbacks that I have to manage. Yeah, who I am at my core feels the same every single day.
Amazing.
And that brings a sense of peace as well. And I still love socializing, and I love being around my friends, and I love being around people that are drinking. That, it's not like I'm sat there thinking, oh, I can't do that. I could, I just don't want to. And I love that they're having a good time, because I do believe we're all entitled to be ourselves. But let's just do that.
Exactly. Giving yourself that choice every single time as well. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, you said you worked with a sober coach.
Yes.
Someone who's been through that experience,
Yes.
that is able to, lend you an ear or a sounding platform for anything that came up during that period as well.
Yeah. And I work very much with energy. And so I work with the whole body, and I work with around physical intelligence. So I do EFT, and I work with us using our bodies to move emotions, and also recognizing how that shifts. And one of the things that, my coach did, we worked a lot with the body. So it was great, because we were releasing some of whatever was stuck as well, without having to go through a lot of the conversations, because I've done a lot of that work. I've done that over decades. So it was really, that was like the value add. That was kind of like the
I think I started to experience some of what you're saying, the movement, the releasing of energy, when I started going to ecstatic dance and dancing in a room full of people, totally sober, as if I was, as if nobody was watching. And after the first sort of 5 or 6 times, it just becomes like, I don't really care what I'm doing, how I'm moving my body, what's going on. I'm just like, close your eyes and lose it and dance and move your body and release all of those trapped feelings and sensations, that stuff as well.
Joe does something called the SAR method. So it's more of that somatic work. So it is all energetic. And it is very much like you've just, described. It is about not caring. It is about moving, but it's structured to going from fast to slow, fast to slow. It's just another way of releasing. Because I think if we can work with our mind, so empower ourselves with our language that we use, with our thoughts, all of that, clearing out the sludge. I call it to my clients. We're going to get some sludge, clear that out, and then use our body to, our energy, use the energy. I mean, I'm also, I'm very much around kind of pranic healing as well, which again is all working with the energy body. So it's about combining that. And the SAR method I have found really, really useful, actually.
So I've not personally come across it. For the past sort of 10 years, done a lot of all sorts of different types of healing modalities and, work with lots of different coaches and stuff. I've not come across that, so I'll have to investigate it. I'm interested.
Yes. I've got a book. It's called Physical Intelligence by Claire Dale and Patricia Payton that talks about it. I'll send you the link.
Yes, please. Awesome. I love a new technique.
Sounds like your dancing does it though as well. It sounds like you're already ahead.
It does to a certain extent, but I can't go as often as I like. Sometimes anyway. Is there an experience in your life where you realized, discovered, or found out that you weren't invincible?
So there's been many, and again, I think going back to kind of like the decade side, I do think that we get given what we can cope with, and so that learning cycle really kind of I think that kicks in. And I think one of the things that really stands out was that change of career for me, because it was great seeing Tony Robbins going off and signing up and not doing anything for that period of time. And then my youngest son then was 5, he was 5. And I decided now's the time. I had an illness for a month, and it wasn't life-threatening, but it was enough to literally stop me. I was signed off of work. I had an operation, and it came from nowhere. So it was really interesting how, again, I wasn't listening to what was going on. And so there was an intervention. And the intervention was, right, well, if you're not going to stop, I'm going to stop you. So I was stopped. And what came out from that, I had a friend who I met through nursery, and she was doing the work that I'm doing now. Sadly, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she was my inspiration. But it was also painful, because every time I saw her, I had my life walking in front of me. I mean, it wasn't my life, it was hers. And it's like, it's this calling. I had this calling, and I was ignoring it. A bit like I was saying about drinking, you know, I know when I know stuff. I think we all have this, and I think the more attuned we get to it and we listen to it, because often we don't, and those are the mistakes that we made, we know, and we ignore it. And so I think that invincible part for me was about, do you know what, as scared as I am, there was almost this unstoppable piece around, okay, what do I do next? And I think what was really challenging was I was married at the time, and, you know, I had a child that was coming out of, you know, that was in nursery and going to his first kindergarten years. I ran teams. I ran 2, you know, I worked for a big company locally to where I am. I was their recruitment manager, and I ran the UK and Ireland. I ran the home. I did everything in the home. And then I was doing my training. So I would go away at weekends and also then have to get my coaching hours up. So when I look back, I do actually think, how did I do this? Because it was a lot. Again, I think when we really want something, we want to make it happen. And I think the invincible part was not just, you know, going through this whole transition, but at that time realizing that I was with somebody that was not supportive and almost mocked what I was doing. So on one hand, maybe supportive about the whole journey and the process, and yet would not make things easy for me. And so I felt the responsibility as well of, I was quite a high earner, of still wanting to commit. You know, I still had outgoings, and so that transition about leaving employment and giving up, you know, my salary, and knowing that I still had to bring that income in without any backup, that became, and I just made the commitment. I said, don't worry, I will bring in the same money. And I didn't know how I would, but I did. And then I was probably 6 months in, and I was offered a contract with a company that had done some work with, just for 3 days a week, to go and head up their global strategic recruitment piece. And I thought, well, that's quite a nice overlay, actually, whilst I'm doing both. And it became apparent at that time that my marriage was unsustainable. And for the sake of my own sanity and that of my youngest son, my eldest son was still living at home, but he was 21. And I had to leave. So amongst all of that, I remember going for my first interview with the company that I went and did some contract work with as Mrs. And by the time I got there, I was living in a bedroom at my mum's with Eden, and, you know, trying to hold it together is the only word I can describe. And a friend of mine ran the Aspire Women's Network locally, and she rang me up and said, would you like to be our guest? I'd love you to come along and do a talk for us in the evening around resilience. And I remember thinking, I can still see myself in my mum's kitchen now saying, I can't do that, which means I must. And so I did. And from that, there was a lady there who said, I think we should come and talk to my director, and I think you could potentially work with us. And that was my first client in the corporate world, where I went in and I did some work with their teams. But beneath the surface, I have to say I was pretty broken and was going on that healing journey, whilst still then having this focus of, I'm doing what I love, and I'm healing. I'm having to go through this process. So I think that most definitely has probably been the most challenging thing to manage, where somebody once said it's like flying the plane while you're building it. Yeah, and I can talk about it, and and be comfortable talking about it, and but yes, I would say that undoubtedly was a challenge.
It sounds like an incredible journey as well. And I love the analogy you said about building a plane whilst flying it. I had a conversation with someone a couple of months ago who was saying that they expect people who are coaching other people to be at their highest level, have worked for all of their stuff, be this like perfect, aspirational, top level, person that has done all the work and completed all of the courses and knows everything about everything. But I feel as though, well, I know from personal experience, like when you're working with clients and you've been to some dark places, you've been, living at your family home for a little while, it gives you a sense of urgency. It gives you a sense of drive. It gives you a sense of something that you can't just turn on when you're not in those situations.
Yeah.
The drive comes from having to repair yourself and learn these new things and heal yourself and build a new business all at the same time, so that you're able to then give a talk on resilience, which is literally what you were going through at the time.
Yeah, very much. And it's, I think that's what makes me a very empathetic coach. And I think I've had one of my senior exec clients, she actually did say to me, you have superpowers as a coach, which I took it from was very humbled by, because she's very well regarded. And I think that comes from having had lived in experiences. And so my empathy really, I'm able to tune in and intuitively kind of know that there's more, and I guess knowing what questions to ask, because I always, I don't believe it's about what I know, it's about what I know from what I hear, and what does that mean, and what am I not hearing, or what am I hearing through body language. And I read body language a lot, so tone of voice, what I see in somebody's, when they're closing up, or what they're doing with their hands. That's a conversation. They're just not verbalizing it, hands up here, hands over here. And I think that where I like to think I really make that difference is by then knowing what questions to ask and helping them kind of become aware and navigate, because I've been there, and knowing what it's like to have somebody in your camp that can not fix you, but can empower you by helping you empower yourself. Because I think when we look for, and even through businesses, if they're looking to bring me in to do some leadership work, I might be rolling out a program on stakeholder management. Absolutely. I'm still working with people, and I'm still working with individuals who work for a company. So if they become more aware about who they are, then that's going to help them build connections and relationships with the people around them. So whilst I work on that one-to-one level, I do this within the group sessions as well, because I've been on my own journey. And I think that when we, like you've just talked about, when we've had our own personal experiences, it's not so that we can, yes, there's a level of sharing if it's appropriate, but most of the time it's more that I'm drawing on, actually, how can I support this person or these people? What do they need right now in this moment that's going to help them move forward?
Exactly. And it's very, very similar to what I do with some of my health coaching practices and routines and methods. Many times there will be situations where someone says, "Oh, I'm not really sure that I want to actually do that." So then we have to find another way round and, find something else that works with their lifestyle, with their diet, nutrition. And I'm assuming it's very similar to you. Sometimes you have to kind of like navigate their blockages, their personality, their lifestyle, the way that they think, the way that they act, and their identity. All of this comes into it, so that you can navigate through that pathway to help them open up and become more than the person they were when they entered the room.
Yes. I think it's that helping people see what is possible. And because I always say, I'm not going to give somebody something. They've already got whatever it is within them. It's more about how that path is, about how they're going to do that. What tools can I share with them that might help them navigate that? And so it's that, I think flexibility is key in the work that we do, because it's not about us, it's about them. And how do I need to be flexible with what I'm pulling out in order to, so that they leave having really explored and kind of leave with either a different perspective or they know what they want to do next, some next small steps.
Providing them choices and options. So where is Louise going next? What is
I'm going to do a podcast. So that's really it. Such a good question, because I feel this year has been energetically really challenging for most people. And I'm talking about both personally and from the feedback that I get with the people that I work with. I think we've had a lot to deal with globally, and that's impacted businesses. It's impacted teams, it's impacted morale. And dare I say it, the weather has made a big impact here in the UK on people's moods and we know that we need vitamin D. We know we need sunshine. We all feel better when it's nice and warm. So I've noticed it within my business as well, around actually things feel like, and I say things, if I was coaching, so I'd say, tell me more about things.
What things
so
specifically?
Yes. But I recognize there's this intangible that I'm noticing of what is next. So I guess I ask myself, what gives me joy? Where do I notice my energy is lit up? And there's a few things. So I believe there's a gap. There's definitely a gap around menopause in the workplace, without a doubt. And I'm let's call it the medical side. This is about empowering men and women. So empowering a woman around her mindset and how she approaches it, and giving her some tools, because there is a whole sense of identity there. And challenges, and that impacts how people, these senior leaders that I work with, I know what I hear. But I also think there's a piece around, these sessions for men to really know how they can support women at home and in the workplace. More of a kind of I'm going to call them a lunch and learn, so that it's a drop in. How can, what are some of the basics that would be helpful? So I think there's something, so that is something that's evolving. And it is more about working with my local network. And I've been quite more prominent on LinkedIn this year, because it was something that I hadn't done as much. And so I'm enjoying connecting with more local contacts so that I can build my local network as well. Because as you introduced me at the beginning, I do work internationally and nationally, and I work on this environment and I work face to face. But the work that I get where it's going is all about the mindset. So it is work about who are we, because this is where I think the appetite is, certainly from the work that I do, is about, yes, it's about models and sharing so that people have got tools, particularly in group sessions, but it's actually all about identity and who are we. And I think we have more of an appetite post-COVID, post what's been going on over the last couple of years, what with the wars and all of that. I get this real sense of we are leading more with heart. And so how can we bring more heart-centered approach into business, into cultures? So how can I be part of that? Because I do believe that, as well as supporting women, because I've always felt that part of my purpose is supporting women in the workplace, supporting women as general. And so, I'm curious. I'd like to do a podcast like you're doing. I'm still working on that theme. But again, it's kind of hearing other people's voices. It's where we learn off of each other. So I can't put a stake in the ground and say I'm going there, because I don't know yet. I just know that I'm moving forward somewhere. And a bit like my journey that got me here, I'm just going to start taking the first step, and then see what evolves.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like you've got plenty on the horizon as well. You mentioned quite a lot that you're working with teams in a coaching environment. What sort of team coaching do you do, and what is your ideal team coaching project or environment that you work in?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I feel really fortunate because of my background and I ran teams, I've been on the receiving end of being in a team and managing people. So I also appreciate what it's like. I think that step into managing people can be really challenging. So I do work with teams more around how can I support them? I'll design and develop a program that is going to help them fill their gaps. So there might be some really basic, what I'm going to call them soft skills. Where I bring my coaching into that is twofold. So I may work with a team and then run like mini coaching and mentoring sessions after I've delivered a program to help embed their learning. So I might ask them coaching style questions in that, or I might share information, which is why they become coaching and mentoring sessions. I do work with I'll also work with teams because being a coach, one of the programs that is really popular is helping managers learn to coach and not tell. So I run a program specifically designed to help them start to become a coach with their teams, because that's where then they're starting to really develop their people. Or it may be that often I'll start working with, a senior leader in a business, and then they want me to work with their senior leadership team. So I kind of get in at the top, and then I'll be working with the senior leadership team, helping them to form communication, because I do use profiling tools. So helping them to form their identity, their purpose as a team. And then often what will happen is they'll want me to perhaps start working then with their next line of managers. I think where I come in with my versatility is, again, knowing how to ask questions. I don't call myself a trainer. I call myself a facilitator because I believe I help people to learn. I don't stand up. I may use PowerPoint. I still love a flip.
Yeah.
So I still will love flip charts all around the room. We'll go in and really work with teams to get them to have the experience, ask the questions. Yes, I may share a model, but it's more about, okay, well, that's a model, but actually, how are you using it? And get them to practice that. I feel very lucky to have the exposure, and I work with some really good clients already on helping shape their teams. And it still goes to each individual within that group. Who are they? So I'll maybe doing some stuff around their personal brand. So that's what I love, that versatility and bringing in, it's not off the shelf. It is about creating something that's going to really, I use that term, be the difference that makes a difference. I want that to make that difference. So that's where I kind of bring my coaching style into how I facilitate and help people to learn.
That is, from personal experience, I know that there's a huge gap in the market where people step into leadership roles, they step into management roles, and they've just got no experience of managing a team, two, managing individual personalities within that team as well. Because there's such a wide variety of different characters, personalities, energies, family situations, all that sort of stuff going on, and being able to get the best out of people whilst also leading them in a direction that is beneficial for the business is such an important.
Yes.
It can be the make or break for a business, can't it?
Yeah.
If you've got the right leadership,
totally
to change everything.
They say, don't they? People don't leave companies, they leave managers.
Exactly.
And so if you can, and often I find, because I do quite a lot of work with tech companies, and that's probably where, and it's changed a lot, by the way, but it used to be very much, well, I'm known for my technical expertise. I don't need to worry about people. And then they're put in managerial positions, and they used to be logical and analytical. They're not around people. But we can be versatile. We can learn. I can share with some fine tools and tuning in order to be versatile. Because yes, now it is about people. You have to have that balance about people. Often it's not that they don't. I always say people do not go to work to fail or to make mistakes or to upset people. They don't. So how can we best support people on their journey? And different people need to be approached in a different way. And so the more that we can understand that at the first footing, that's the foundation. And then, yes, what are the company's goals? What do they want to achieve? What are their values? how are the people then aligned to that? Because we want everybody, if you've got everybody working towards the same goal, then you've got all that energy behind it. So you can probably tell I'm quite passionate about that.
It's all coming through. Definitely. I love it. Know that your clients appreciate your passion as well. And that's why, you get repeat business. You work with some, top UK companies. Your client list is very impressive.
Thank you. I always say I'm honoured, and I am. And you're right, my clients do come back to me. So for me, that's always testament that they enjoy what I do. And I'm always looking at what can I do differently? What do they need now? It's not about rolling out the same thing. It's about, okay, where's the gap? And that knowing where to tap again.
Comes from your own personal development. As you grow and evolve, you can take that into more trainings and open your trainings up to new things that you've learned and and assimilate into your personal brand, I suppose.
Yes. And I think the nature of a coach and a facilitator is it's quite a sharing community. So I'm connected to, a number of different people doing what I do. And it's not a case of this is me and I need to hold on to everything. We're all very much about sharing tools, sharing techniques, because again, I think let's learn off of each other. And I've had some of my biggest learnings by watching other, now I would consider my friends, if they're delivering something and like, I like how you did that, because, when we can model off of each other. So it can be, I think that's another way of learning. It's not just about going on another course. It's around actually, what have I got already that I might do differently? Or how do I tweak this or fine tune it for that particular client because of whether it's their team, who's their team, or whether it's the environment that they're in. So
beautiful. We have come to the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your trainings, your experience, your abilities, and everything that makes you you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on here as well. It's different because I'm usually asking the questions. So it's actually a gift to be able to reflect. One of the things I think when I say to my clients is we're so often moving forward that we don't pause and look back and go, how far have you come? So thank you, because it's been an opportunity for me to reflect as well. And that will help me in thinking about what my next steps are. And hopefully I've shared some areas that might inspire others.
Exactly. And I will share a link in the show notes of where you can get in touch with Louise for team development coaching, one-to-one senior level coaching, and anything else that we've spoken about during today's podcast. So thank you very much for listening and watching.